Oh, this is going to be a show. No, that's the intro. That's it there. That's definitely the intro. Yeah, that's the intro.
Dude, we're not going back. There are no second takes here on the Arena Craft podcast, a show dedicated exclusively to Magic the Gathering Arena. Woo!
Hi, we're in a good mood. It's a good day. It's a good day.
It's something about recording on Saturday morning. I don't know what it is. Anyway, my name is Arjuna the Endlessly Mirthful. And here with me today is CovertGoBlue, the world's funniest man. And yes, we're here today to talk about content and to have a good time, which is what we always do on the Arena Craft podcast. And for any of you wondering why I'm not in the lair of the Hydra like I usually am, it's because I'm on the road. So if my audio sounds a little echoey or whatever, don't worry about it. CovertGoBlue,
yes.
How are you doing?
I am doing good. Today is a good day. I got a lot of sleep, and that's good. Long, lack of detail story is that I haven't been getting as much sleep as I used to, but now... Last night, I got a lot of it, so I feel great today. How are you? Dude,
I slept well as well. And I'm starting to think there's a causative link between sleeping a long time and feeling good.
Whoa.
Who would have known? Right? Who would have put that one together?
I mean, we're not doctors, but
no,
that one sounds...
Nothing we say on the Arena Craft podcast is medical advice, all right? Although I will say that sometimes stepping away from the arena when you feel angry is a good idea. All right. So take that as but I'm not a doctor. All right.
Yeah. I'm also not a doctor, but just going to sleep instead of playing more arena sometimes feels better in the morning.
Yeah. In fact, there seems to be a causative link between not feeling arena and not playing arena and your life feeling better. But anyway, but I'm not a doctor. So don't worry about it. So today on the arena, we're actually going to spend a fair amount of time talking about things that don't directly necessarily relate to Magic the Gathering Arena, but it's a big time in the Magic world. And so, yes, today we're going to be talking about organized play announcements. So, CovertGoBlue and I have both been interested in Magic for, centuries, it feels like. And if you're a person who was playing Magic before the arenas, there was this thing called the Pro Tour, which was basically like the most exciting thing that ever happened to anyone interested in Magic. And they're bringing them back. So, and I'm sure if you've been following CGB's content for a long time, you will know that CGB is a massive fan of the Pro Tour. And we're definitely going to be talking about that today. We're also going to be talking about some new cards that have been spoiled for new Capenna.
Because why not? So, it's another week. We should have new cards to talk about every week.
I know, right? I mean, this is our life now. This is what we do. So, we're going to be talking about some multicolored nonsense, and that's going to be a good time. But first, CGB, I couldn't help but noticing that we were both like looking around to get our content going, and what's this I see about? Are they making Magic more accessible? What's going on here, dude?
Okay, for everybody at home wondering what the hell were they laughing at and feeling out of the joke, I clicked on this article on Daily MTG that announced a new secret lair called Secret Lair Knows Its Left from Its Other Left. And it is an announcement saying, finally, we have left-handed Magic cards. And they're cards that reverse the side on which the thing is. Okay, maybe you can take a better shot at describing this with words. I'm just lazy now. I'm a visual medium creator. So shout out to BottleBrush, our great editor for the podcast as it goes on YouTube, is going to put some images over here, and I don't have to describe them. It's fine. This is fine. But you of the audio, the orator,
The Grand Orator.
You have to describe these for the kids at home.
So basically, they've taken magic cards and they've kind of like horizontally flipped some of the aspects of them. So, for example, the mana cost is on the left, the name is on the right. They've also put the power and toughness on the left. And the best one here is a Planeswalker, where the loyalty is on the left and the plus abilities are on the right. So, you know, making Magic more accessible, CGB.
Yeah.
Now, okay.
What a product.
You know what? I don't even have to ask because I know you're right-handed, CovertGoBlue. You give off that like 90% of the population Chad kind of energy. You know?
I do. You're right.
But me over here, the weirdo, holding up my right hand, me over here, the weirdo, I'm actually a left-handed player. So for me, this is going to be a huge change to the game for me to be able to get all of my cards in the lefty version.
Really?
Some part.
You're left-handed?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware.
CGB slowly scoots his chair away and quits the podcast forever. This is like the Homer backing into the hedge meme.
All right, I'm out here now. I just have to carry this lefty gamer content wise. It's fine. This is important now.
When left meets the right, magical things happen. That's a real song.
That's a real song. You didn't make that up.
It's from the 90s. It was an R. Kelly B-side. What are you talking about?
An R. Kelly B-side.
You know, that's what B-sides are. They're the left-handed side of the record, dude. We got there.
It's true. It's very true. So
we really got that.
You know how. So this is an April Fool's story. It was dated April 1st, and Arjuna pointed this out to me after like my eyes had already popped about halfway out of my head, you know, and I was like, what the hell is this? Because here's the problem with April Fools and the internet. First of all, you avoid the internet for the day if you don't want to get April Fooled. You know, you just avoid it. It's okay. But it's on the internet. So if you come back like I do to Daily MTG looking for my latest in Magic news and announcements, and you see an article and you click on it and it doesn't register with you right away that was posted on April 1st, even though it's no longer April 1st, you read it as if it's a real announcement, which is what I did here. And I was like, what the hell is all this? And it got me. It got me really bad. Even though yesterday I was 100-0. I was undefeated. Nobody got me with April Fools yesterday, but they got me the day after, which is not fair. I think
I agree.
Yeah, that's not okay.
I agree. April Fool's articles should just expire, you know?
That's right.
Can we just, dude? All right. I don't know how everyone else feels about this, but I personally just want to erase April 1st from the calendar.
No.
Like, dude, it's going to be like February now, right? It's like February is the weird month. I want April to start on April 2nd. What's wrong with that?
Then, you know, that's a personal thing. You take the day off, whatever. Just don't leave your house. Just don't turn on your internet devices.
Dude, they just got rid of daylight savings.
No.
We can be the difference.
No. April Fools is important. We have to protect trolling where there has to be some trolling in the world. People can't just exist in their own happy little comfort bubbles, man. They have to, you got to be able to shake them up and get a little something out of them, because too many people now, they just curate their little content world, and Facebook and Twitter serve them whatever they want. And they live in a little bubble where they are the center of it and everything is warm and fuzzy. And somebody's got to go in there sometimes and be like, I shake you up. Surprises can be good. Like, they can be the best things in life. The best.
CovertGoBlue, patron saint of morons. we move. We move, crafties.
Without April Fool's Day, you would have a new undefeated 100% win rate on ladder mono red deck that I posted yesterday.
Oh, dude. I didn't know, but that was going to be my next question, is if you participated.
Yeah, it's my most viewed video on YouTube in a while. So,
well, crafties, go watch that video. You may or may not be about to get rickrolled.
It's totally not clickbait. Nope.
You give love a bad name. All right.
Bad name.
So let's get into the fleshy part of the episode, CGB. Organized play. People have been waiting on the edges of that chairs with bated breath, trying not to get an aneurysm with how angry they've been over organized play. So they made an announcement this week, which when you're listening to this, Crafties, will be last week, about organized play. And CGB, I mean, what's happening, man? Give it to us. What was the big announcement?
The article's title is The Return of the Pro Tour, Your Path to Playing Magic at the Highest Level. This was very spoilery for somebody being like, I haven't read it. Are you ready, chat? We're going to go read it. And then I'm like, post the link. I don't want like to have to go search it because I'll see something. And so they post the link in my chat. It's literally called The Return of the Pro Tour. I'm like, oh yeah. Anyway, spoilers. But yeah, they're bringing back the Pro Tour, which is, what can you say? The Pro Tour was a big part of my life. It gave me something to aspire for and chase. It gave me something that I could try to be good at, not just good at, like one of the best in the world at. And they're bringing it back. And they gave all that up for a period of time for MPL, and they changed things to Mythic Championships and Players Championships, and none of it stuck. I mean, as recently as a week ago, we were watching or 2 weeks ago, I guess, we were watching the Neon Dynasty set championship coverage, and I just called it the Pro Tour the whole time. I'm like, I'm not going to change. I'm done changing. I'm done trying to figure out what they want these called. So they're changing it back to the Pro Tour. There are, let's see. So shall we start breaking down how to get to the Pro Tour, or do you have anything else to say about the Pro Tour first?
No, just that it's like the Pog Tour. It's like the tour that everyone likes, you know? It's like the place everyone wanted to be. It's the real deal. So I'm just like really glad that they had it back. You know, it kind of makes me feel like Arena's like the redheaded stepchild of like the Magic ecology system, right? Because it's like they couldn't give it to us, man. They could not give us an Arena Pro Tour. They just weren't going to do it. And that bothers me.
Well, we'll see. So first of all, this big announcement is for the paper product. So I guess that gets out of the way what might be a very important question to some people. But there is an announcement coming at the end of April that they talked about multiple times. That is the digital organized play announcement. And what most people are expecting is the path for digital play to get to the paper Pro Tour. But there are 3 Pro Tours a year. There are 3 regional championships a year. There were a lot more events when they did the Mythic Championship series before COVID happened. And there are no Grand Prix. Okay. So that was something that they used to do monthly, at least like bi-monthly pretty often and around the world. So technically there are a lot less super high level events. I think there might still be room for those Mythic Championship style events where specifically to Arena, they bring together the best Arena players in the world and they battle on LAN, you know? That leans into something that's upcoming, which is that DreamHack is going to be the US organizer for the Pro Tour. For not the Pro Tour, but for the regional championships and the regional championship qualifiers. So we'll get to that. But DreamHack is an esports org in the US known for hosting like spectator festival type LAN events. And that is the kind of thing and they have done an Arena on LAN tournament. Aaron Gertler won it just before COVID set in. Right. So yeah. Right. Yeah, pretty big news with DreamHack being a part of this.
Totally. Yep. That's totally awesome. So they definitely seem to be like pulling out some of the stops as far as this. You know, I think for anyone expecting it to be like another super disappointing milquetoast kind of Magic announcement, it seems to be the real deal, right? Like, and while it may not include all of the perks that have been offered to Magic Pros over time, it seems to be a pretty good start, pretty good bite at the apple coming back.
Yeah, it also does try to address things like that. There's a lot of stuff. We're kind of jumping around. But I guess we can just, we can go after each one as we go. Where do you want to start with this?
Well, let's just talk about the structure, right?
Okay.
So they've brought back something resembling the old structure which they had. So how do you qualify for the Pro Tour? The first thing that you do is you go to a regional championship qualifier. And so this is what used to be called, like, I don't know, RPTQ or something.
So in the very, 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 very beginning, Pro Tour qualifiers were pretty big events that you had to drive a long way to in the very, very, very beginning, with a lot of people, like hundreds of people, usually hosted in like hotels, but sometimes in larger stores and conference centers. And then they spread that out, and they made PTQs like things you could do at your game store. And at the game store level, the PTQs and the Pro Tour itself, during a lot of years, they kept growing and growing, and the game stores just got overwhelmed. Okay. So they created our PTQs, which are like big tournaments, again, like at the very, very beginning, that you would go to, or no, you would play a PTQ, a Pro Tour qualifier, like at the game store level to qualify for an RPTQ. And then you had to go to the RPTQ, which was a much bigger tournament, and qualify there. And then you went to the Pro Tour.
Okay, so I got it wrong. Okay, so the bottom of the pyramid, what used to be the PTQ, is now the regional championship qualifier. Yeah. So hopefully there'll be, a tournament in your area, or at least somewhat close to your area. So the regional championship qualifiers happen at LGSs. Is that right?
Yes. The regional championship qualifiers should happen in your LGS at Wizards Play Network stores. From what I read, it sounds like any Wizards Play Network store can host one regional championship qualifier per quarter, I think, per season, or whatever it is. So they also, and this is a blockbuster, you're going to love this, the store chooses the format. They have four formats to choose from: draft of whatever the current set is, modern, pioneer, standard.
Dude,
store chooses the format.
That is freaking sweet. Wow. Okay. So big news there, because as we all know, there are definitely, different scenes in different places that prefer different formats. So that's a really, really good start. So basically, you drive to your LGS, hopefully if you have one, or you drive to the nearest city that, has a store that hosts this event. And, up to once per quarter, you get to participate in one of these. And then if you do well in that event, then you get the chance to go to a regional championship, which is kind of like what CGB was talking about before, where you drive probably to, your nearest really big city. No. Did I get it wrong?
It is not like that. It sounds okay. I see why you think that, because that does logically follow with the old system. It is not like that. So the regional championship, when we talk region, we're not talking the Great Lakes region versus the Great Plains region. We're not talking the West Coast region versus the East Coast region. When they talk region, they're talking North of frickin' America. They're talking the USA. Dude. I'm sorry, they're talking the USA. All right, the whole US. It's like a U.S. championship for the U.S. Canada also has their own regional championship. South America, Europe has their own regional championship. China has their own, Japan, like places like that have their own. But yeah, we're talking about really big areas. We're talking about Semi-Continental regional championships. And this one is going to be held, I believe it's in November of this year at a DreamHack Run event in Atlanta. So, I mean, it's like it's for the whole US, and it looks like it's going to be a very, very big tournament.
Dude, I believe it's going to be huge. I mean, it's probably going to be one of the best attended tournaments in Magic history, I would imagine.
Not only that, like they are, and this is what's really exciting about the DreamHack stuff. So on the article page, if you go to regional championship qualifiers, they have links to all the different organizers. Now, obviously, I've spent my time on the DreamHack page because I'm in the US, but there are different organizers. I did click around for Australia, for Europe. None of them seem to be flushed out, like have all this information available on day one the way DreamHack does. But the DreamHack site is absolutely loaded. And when you read about like these events that they're putting on, it's kind of insane. So DreamHack Atlanta Magic Showdown, they're going to have the big battle, which they're calling the Magic Showdown, but they're also going to have fun and casual events every day, Artist Alley, community-focused vendors, 20K open events, Command Zone, so more of that kind of thing, cosplaying and art competitions, learn to plays, and various Commander events. You can play Commander all over DreamHack. So it's like a full-blown Magic Fest with the biggest like US turn, like from all over the US tournament at the same time, which like as a person who attended stuff, it did become very samey over the years. Like it stopped feeling special. When I went to the last US Nationals I was qualified for, I was really disappointed. They had very few vendors. It was just the U.S. National Tournament, and I think there might have been a Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament in the same hotel that weekend or something. And there wasn't like coverage. It didn't feel special. It was folding chairs and tables, you know. It didn't feel like anything to me. This just looking at the page, you're like, oh man, they're gonna like if I show up as a fan who is not qualified, I'm gonna have a lot of stuff to do. Besides hang out and wait to hear bad beat stories between rounds.
Well, and so it seems like they're trying to get that kind of like that GP experience filled in here, right? That kind of like you can show up and choose your own adventure. And if you want to play competitively, you can. And, you know, if you qualified, whatever, you can do that. And if you don't, it's just going to be a big old party and you can play whatever format you want and have fun. So I think that's really cool. I'm glad to see that they're still going to be pushing events like that, because obviously there's a much larger group of people who want to travel and enjoy a Magic event than just people who want to play super furrowed brow Magic. So I'm stoked to hear about that. And so you go to a regional championship. So it's going to be one of those global regions that CGB outlined. And then if you do well there, you get a chance to play on the Pro Tour. And CGB, have they provided us what the like player sizes of these Pro Tours are going to be? Or is it more just kind of I imagine because they have this kind of tiered structure, they probably have like a set number of players in mind.
Yeah. I don't think we have a sure like how many they're expecting. We have something like that for Worlds because the Worlds like size has fluctuated over the years, but not for the Pro Tour. I mean, we have some number of the invites, but it looks like I don't know for sure. I would expect them to be 300 to 400 players like they have been in the past.
Yeah, totally. So the Pro Tours, exactly. They're going to be just like kind of the cream of the crop from all of these more regional tournaments. And they said that they're going to be doing 3 of them in 2023.
Yep.
So nothing happening this year in terms of the actual Pro Tour, but next year we're going to have 3.
The set championship model is going to continue for this year, then going to die. So it's not going to be the whatever the new set is next year, the Return to Ravnica 4 Pro Tour. Like that's not how it's going to work. It's very unclear right now what the formats will be like when is it going to be a 2-week-old format or is it going to be a 10-week-old format when the Pro Tour happens? We don't know. Those are the kind of things that I really want to know. I love when the Pro Tour showcases new and exciting decks with new cards before they get stale. We also know that the first Pro Tour is going to be, or at least the first regional, I think it is going to be Pioneer. So Pioneer is going to be the format that's going to kickstart the pro season at the next year, when they start doing this in full.
How do you feel about that?
Well, they're trying to save Pioneer. That was a format that had a lot of buzz, and it was going to be the Players Tour paper, like Magic format of choice. And then they cut it kind of, because of COVID, and there was no way to play it on Arena, so they didn't use it. So I think it's really good for the format of Pioneer. I know that it has a player base that is pretty passionate, and they need to grow that player base, or the format itself would probably die. As it's weird to think that you can qualify playing things like Historic, but then have to figure out a whole other format like Pioneer. I guess we don't know that you can qualify playing Historic yet. I'm expecting that in the announcement next month. I don't know. Like, we've kind of had it too good on Arena for a while, where we've basically had access to levels of pro play of everything has gone through Arena. So we've never felt like they were playing a format we couldn't play or had that feels bad. You know what I mean? And we're going to have to live with that, I guess. But Pioneer, I will say, is a very accessible format. I feel like, as somebody who's played Magic for, a good amount of years, maybe that's a little biased.
Has some little privilege there, perhaps. Yeah.
But I feel like I understand what the cards do and what the decks are trying to accomplish, compared to something like Modern, where when somebody starts playing ad nauseum, I don't know what's happening. So I don't know. I hope that a majority of the people who would be interested in something like the Pro Tour can get into some Pioneer. But I also had this theory that people couldn't get into watching old Pro Tour coverage because they just didn't know what the cards did, and that they wouldn't find it as interesting as I do. But I had another Pro Tour watch party yesterday, and they're pretty well attended. Not like my normal streams, which can max out at like 800 to 900 concurrent viewers. The Pro Tour watch party of like a 2012 Pro Tour gate crash, it maxed out at like 500 viewers. So that's down significantly, but still there were a lot of people who didn't know what these cards did, and I was there trying to help explain and guide what they were trying to achieve, and people still found it very interesting. So I'm optimistic that this is going to be fine.
Well, one of the things I like about it is that it's a non-rotating format. And I do think that tournaments in non-rotating formats have a greater longevity, right? You can go back and watch an old Modern tournament and be like, well, all of those cards are still in the format. A lot of people play archetypes that are kind of similar to these archetypes. And so that's pretty cool. So what I like about it is that I do think that Pioneer is a great kind of on-ramp to competitive paper play. Start growing a collection and start collecting some staples and not worry that they're going to rotate or, be immediately kind of outdated. And it's also a somewhat like price accessible format. I mean, if you compare the price of the average Pioneer deck to the price of the average, like any format older than Pioneer deck, it's just like not even, I think Pioneer decks probably cost on average like a quarter to a tenth of the price of like a Modern deck or a Legacy deck or whatever. So I think that that's really cool. And, as someone who's played, I wouldn't say a lot of Pioneer, but I've definitely played the format before. And I think it's a really cool format. And I would say that it's like somewhat analogous in power level to Historic. Pioneer has access to a lot of cards, like powerful cards that Historic does not. However, Historic also has access to some insanely powerful cards that Pioneer does not. So I think if you're the kind of person who enjoys the play styles, the deck archetypes, all that kind of thing in Historic, I think that you'll catch on to Pioneer pretty quickly. And you'll even recognize there are a number of archetypes which are kind of pretty good in both formats. So
yeah. How does Teferi Time Raveler do in that Pioneer format, by the way?
I mean, okay, you had to pick one of the notable examples, right? So yes, you can still play that card in Pioneer somehow. Not quite sure how, but here's the thing: like, we don't have like Archmage's Charm, in Pioneer, right? So I mean, it's just like it's just I think that like it's going to be a pretty smooth transition for anyone who's used to playing Historic. And I, for one, welcome our new Pioneer Overlords.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so, it'll be fun. I'm just glad to have the Pro Tour back. So I'll definitely watch a Pro Tour in Pioneer and enjoy it. You know what else they said about the Pro Tour? it's going to have that draft thing going on.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, the first 3 rounds of both days are going to be draft. I was like, oh, Arjuna will be happy, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a dagger to my heart.
To CGB sleeping in.
Yeah. Hey, that's the bright side. If I do the watch parties, I get to sleep in. Although, I mean, if these Pro Tours are anything like the regional championships where you can actually go there, hang out, and do stuff, I'm going. Like, lock me in. I'm there.
Yeah, but you'll still be sleeping in.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, I'm happy to hear about this. I find competitive limited to be really fun to watch, and especially the draft portion. I'll tell you what, man. If you want a masterclass in drafting a format, watch them do it at the Pro Tour. It's really, really exciting. And then, you can go and make a sandwich while they're playing the games or whatever. So, that's basically it, Crafties. I'm sure that there's like pros on other podcasts who, have like hours and hours and hours of things that they want to talk about regarding this. I don't. But more than anything, like I'm just stoked that we're returning to Pro Tour events with coverage.
Yes, that's in there too. That it's one line in like 4 different articles, but you can find it. They are bringing coverage. Yep,
and that's just really exciting. So I'm just looking forward to a whole generation of arena players who get to watch. I mean, maybe not Pioneer right away. But, it's going to happen where they're eventually going to get to watch maybe a standard tournament or just like a tournament in a format that they're really into, and watch like the live paper coverage and watch the live real analog players sitting in the chair, scratching their butts, muttering, whatever. And it's a special experience. It really is. So I'm happy for you, Crafties, that you get to look forward to that.
Oh, yeah. And then can we cover a little salt? Can we cover just a little community salt here?
Awesome, baby.
The Magic Esports Twitter died the day that this announcement was made. They changed it to @PlayMTG. The Magic Esports Initiative officially died on March 31st, 2022, meaning it lasted just a little over 1,200 days. My streak almost lasted as long as the Magic Esports Initiative.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it was a demise that was pretty much foretold, right? But yeah, still a little sad. And I definitely do wonder like what the future is for competitive digital events. I mean, they're talking about like having certain paths to the Pro Tour from playing events, which is cool. I have a feeling that it's probably not going to be that many opportunities, but yeah, maybe I'll end up being surprised about that.
And it is super ironic that the most esporty thing they have ever done, which is partner with DreamHack to hold their tabletop events, it happens at the same time that their esports Twitter handle dies. I look, it gives you a little bit of, is it Schadenfreude? Is that the term? Because
Schadenfreude, yeah.
They took a system that was by no means perfect, but overall had a lot going for it and a lot of history and something that a lot of people loved. And they tore it up from the roots, and they didn't directly promise this, but they basically promised that esports would be better. Like, that was the idea. That we were going to tear up the system that you love and try to deliver you something even better, go even bigger. And it would be better for everybody in the long run, bigger prizes, more exposure, more prestige. And when there were problems with it and people pointed out those problems, they really dug their heels in. Like they were completely off, they just ignored a lot of their community, blatantly to do this esports thing. And it was a very we know best and we're taking the shot. And they definitely didn't do it with the community on their side. So there's going to be a lot of ding dong, the witch is dead kind of behavior.
Yes, indeed. And I mean, it's sad. I think what this announcement shows to me more than anything else is that Wizards does really have, like, pushing 30 years of experience organizing these kind of events, maybe more like 25. But, even if they're coming up with something that's kind of new here, they have like a really solid foundation of that. They do not have a solid foundation of organizing esports events or, basically participating in esports in any way. And it really shows. It showed then, it shows now. So we continue to see where the focus is. But, I don't know. It sounds like they've got some kind of an idea for how competitive play is going to continue on Arena. So I feel moderately hopeful. They're continuing to do these opens, which I think are a really good idea. And, there's a lot of potential. So I'm not going to totally write them off. But yeah, it's probably going to be more like, there's like this super dedicated group of grinders who still play MTGO events. And, they're like really into it and people still win money and things still happen and they still have clout, right? So I feel like, yeah, that'll probably continue on Arena as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's transition on here to talking about some new cards. So CGB, it looks like we're actually getting a chance to meet some of these mob bosses. So
I find all of them very charming as well.
They're quite cuddly, aren't they?
No, I was just using a charm joke. It was a pun. You were supposed to laugh and be like, I see what you did there, but you didn't. You just whoosh.
Yeah, it went over the head. It's chill. So do you want to start with the charms or do you want to start with the bosses? Where do you want to go with this?
Yeah, I'll let's see. I've got a little list here. Let's start with the bosses. You were going to the bosses, and I made a charm joke. This is on me. So I'm gonna read I'll read some cards, and we'll see what you think of them. It'll be fun. All right, I'm gonna read Jetmir Nexus of Revels. This is 1 and a red, green, white. So this is your Naya boss. It's 4 total mana. Mythic, legendary creature, cat demon. Just
wondering what creator that was.
I have a demon cat. These are very real creature types. I definitely have a demon cat. And this is a 5/4. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have vigilance as long as you control 3 or more creatures. Creatures you control also get +1/+0 and have trample as long as you control 6 or more creatures.
I see where we're going.
Creatures you control also get +1/+0 and have double strike as long as you control 9 or more creatures. That's it. That's the card.
That's the text.
What do you think of this card?
I think this card's going to be really fun to build around in Commander. Definitely a format where people sometimes enjoy making wide boards and kind of memeing around. And so, yeah, I think this is going to be really, really cool and fun for a certain kind of player in the Commander format. As far as constructed, it's a little hard for me to imagine it, right? I feel like usually when you're going super wide, you usually have like a more concise game plan or maybe better things to do to finish the game in your average 60 card deck than slamming Jetmir. But I don't know. It's a powerful card. If going wide is the thing that you're doing, let's say, for example, if you have 6 or more creatures and you jam Jetmir, you're probably just alpha striking your opponent.
Yeah, then you have +2/+0 vigilance and trample on all of your creatures. I was going to say that. I think that if you can hit 6 with this, that's the threshold. So I'm expecting this set to have a lot of this particular, are we calling them families?
Yeah, the family.
Okay, this particular family is probably going to have a lot of these token creatures. All right, there's going to be a lot of cats and various animals on the battlefield. So if there are, say, they bring back a card like Hordling Outburst that has 3 mana to make 3/1/1 tokens, like that's the kind of thing that would enable it. So it would take that type of support in the set for this to be a player. Otherwise, I wouldn't craft it for Arena. But that's where I stand on it.
Hey, I mean, this might be the card that takes CovertGoBlue into playing Naya.
That already. Yeah, she saw this on Twitter And for those who don't know, my wife is just kind of getting into Magic, and she's like, "Oh, she's like, honey, I saw this new card. It's like a cat, and it's a demon, and when you have a lot of creatures, they get a lot of abilities, and I would really like it to be a commander deck." You know, I make her sound like a little kid, but she's kind of adorable. Like, this is a thing that she just does when she sees something that she wants, and it's a lot. It's not creepy at all, like some of you are going to try to imply. It's totally adorable.
Confirmed adorable. So easy upgrade to a Kahira deck there. It's pretty sweet. All right, let's talk about Rafine, the Scheming Shear. This is the Sean Connery card of the set. And this is an Esper card. So yes, white, blue, and black. And this is legendary creature, Sphinx Demon. And it's a 1/4. And it has flying and ward 1. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, new keyword, where X is the number of attacking creatures. So it connives X, X is the number of attacking creatures. And then the ability text on connive reads, draw X cards, then discard X cards. Put a +1/+1 counter on that creature this way for each non-land card discarded this way. So this is also, I mean, this doesn't scream go wide, but it's another card that definitely gets buffed off you having more rather than less attacking creatures. So just something to note. We might have a fair number of like tokens or just incentives for us to be swinging with a lot of creatures in this set, which I find interesting. It kind of makes me wonder whether it's like here's the boss, and then we have all of our minions, kind of a setup going on here. So, I mean, first of all, like, what do you think of this connive keyword, CGB?
I think connive is a really, like, it sounds like a kind of a narrow thing that if you put it on creatures of different colors, like how does it translate? Should everybody be able to Prismari command? Should everybody be able to rummage? You know, should everybody be able to draw 2, discard 2? It's kind of weird that we're just spreading that mechanic onto a keyword. It reminds me of Surveil, whereas Surveil felt like, okay, well, that's just a strictly blue keyword, right? Like, and it ended up being like the black-blue keyword. So it feels like it's going to be an Esper-centric keyword, maybe also leaning into Grixis because just of the nature of drawing and discarding. So that's my take on it. But it is really something that discarding non-land cards here continues to buff creatures, getting you bigger and bigger, like power toughness kind of pushes. Whereas like usually when you're drawing cards, you're not also growing your creature. So it sounds like a very powerful effect for just leaning a little more aggressive than you're used to. Yeah.
I could see a card like this going very well into like some kind of an eye twitchy deck, you know, like a deck that like plays some value dorks and stuff. And, you know, and especially if you have like little dinky flying threats as well, then I think a card like this could be very good. So I'm definitely interested to see, you know, if we have some card which is like, you know, sorcery, make 2 birds or whatever, a card like this could actually be really powerful. A little bit of an interesting one, but yeah, it could find a home.
I'm worried that this is really good. Yeah, but so I want let's just think it through. How do you kill it?
I mean, that's a good point. So we can't Vanishing Verse it. We can't deal 3 it. We need a deal 4. So yeah, I mean that's a good point that you raised.
Kind of one turn also to get your deal 4 off through a ward 1 to kill it. All right, now I'm going to make it interesting. Let's say you play a card that you've never seen before on turn 2. This card called Luminarch Aspirate.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't heard of it, but I'm sure I'll get there eventually.
You play that on turn 2, and you put the counter on itself. We'll assume that you played like a Triumph on turn 1 just to be reasonable and not make this total magical Christmas land.
You played a what? CovertGoBlue?
I'm sorry,
You broke my balls last time.
Rafine's Tower. You played a Rafine's Tower on turn 1. Anyway,
okay, continue.
So turn 1, you played a land that taps for 3 colors of mana. Turn 2, you play a Luminarch Aspirant and you put the counter on itself. Turn 3, if you play this, you can take that Luminarch Aspirant, put a counter on itself, attack with that Luminarch Aspirant, put a counter on that Luminarch Aspirant by drawing and discarding, because it doesn't just trigger when Rafine attacks. It's whenever you attack.
Yep.
So this doesn't have to get in the red zone to trigger the ability. It does go off the turn you play it if you played a creature before it, and it can attack. But in that example I just outlined, Luminarch Aspirant's a 4/4. On turn 2, you draw a card, you discard a card. That probably doesn't mean nothing. And if they want to deal with Rafine, it has Ward 1. If they do deal with the Luminarch Aspirant, you're still coming in next turn and growing Rafine. Like, that's a really obnoxious sequence.
It is. Well, and let's say instead of having your Tri-land on turn 1, you just played an Eye Twitch. And, the mana's pretty good coming into this format. So maybe you could have Esper on turn 3 without having to play your Tri-land. And, now all of a sudden you're cracking in with 2 creatures on turn 3. And that Connive adds 2 counters and you get to, draw, discard 2 cards. And I mean, we're starting to get into that's a really solid opening, right? Like, if your opponent's not able to deal with that pretty much immediately, they're in a world of pain.
Oh, yeah. And it's really hard to interact with. We were trying to name, what kills it. You can't power word kill it. It's a demon.
God.
You can Infernal Grasp it and take 4, I guess, from the Luminarch Aspirant, or 3, or, but Infernal Grasp, it's hard to play in multiples. You can't just run 4 of that card. It kills you. So you're not going to have that on turn 2 that often. This card is going to be this card looks like a major pain to me. I think it might be really good.
Yeah. The real question is what does the rest of the deck look like? But I agree. I mean, we've the Orzhov color combination has proven to be very, very strong in recent sets, basically. And I feel like this card doesn't need that much to really get there. So we could be seeing some kind of an aggressive Esper deck, and that sounds really exciting to me.
Blasphemy. Disgusting. Hate it.
We're supposed to take our time. All right, CGB, why don't you take us into the Grixis demon?
Good God. Lord Xander, the Collector. Get ready. Buckle up. I mean, it's 4 and a Grixis, so it's a total of 7 mana.
Oh my God. We're already going down this road, right? We've seen so many Grixis cards that are 10,000 generic mana and a Grixis do something, right?
Well, we're all trying to relive the glory of Cruel Ultimatum, which was 7 mana.
Indeed.
All right. This is a creature, though, and it's a mythic, and it's a 6/6. And when Xander enters the battlefield, target opponent discards half the cards in their hand rounded down.
Okay.
Woo! All right.
I mean, that is an effect.
Wait, there's more. Whenever Xander attacks, defending player mills half their library rounded down.
That's kind of meh.
How about, can I interest you in one more line of text? When Xander dies, target opponent sacrifices half the non-land permanents they control rounded down.
I mean, that is an effect on a Magic card, which I'm not going to be happy about when it targets you. So, all right. So, CGB, do you want me to be the ice water person, or do you want to be the person who throws ice water on this card?
I don't know if I can do that. So go for it. You start.
All right. So this card looks powerful, and I'm not saying it's not powerful, but there's a few things that we have to remember about this card. All right. Before all of you, poggies in the chat start flipping out about how this is the next big thing. Let's just talk about the fact that it costs 7 mana. All right. Just in your average deck, CGB, if you could cast this card, or if you could cast, I don't know, Kiara Best's the Sea God, which of those cards would you be wanting to have on the battlefield?
Xander, because it's new, and Poggies.
Fair enough. How about Coma the Cosmos Serpent?
Xander, because it's new and it's Poggies.
So I think in a 60 card format, Lord Xander's going to be a little bit awkward because by the time you hit that 7 mana, how many cards is your opponent likely to have in their hand? And how many cards is your opponent likely to have in their hand that they're not like okay discarding to Lord Xander, right? So I feel like in the average game of just like 60 card Magic on Arena, you're going to hit like 1 card with this. And it's probably going to be just a land or something, or, you know, maybe your opponent's Vanishing Verse that couldn't target the Xander anyway, right? So what are we left with? We're left with a 6/6, which is it's pretty good, you know. I think the attack trigger is basically flavor text. You're not going to play this in as like a top end in a Grixis mill deck or whatever. So I wouldn't really worry about that. I think the dies trigger is interesting because if you can get this thing down against an opponent who, you know, is building a board presence, it's definitely going to make their life more complicated. But again, it's like if an opponent's got enough permanents to make this trigger a problem for them, it also means that they've been putting a bunch of permanents on the board all the way up until your turn, whatever, 6 or 7, when you're actually able to cast this thing. So I think that the devil in this card is really in the casting cost. If it could come down earlier, it would be better. But then the thing is, if we're cheating stuff into play, why aren't we cheating Ulamog into play or just like some actual game ender? So that's kind of my rundown with the card. How does that track with you, CGB?
Well, if we're talking about standard, then we've got to talk about Reanimator, because everything that you say is right, but it does leave out Reanimator, which if you reanimate this, you get an enters the battlefield ability. You also have this if it dies ability that can be very, very brutal. And the attacking ability, I agree, is mostly flavor text. Milling the opponent isn't anything too amazing, especially if the rest of your deck is focused on reanimating big monsters. If you also had to somehow fit in like Tasha's Hideous Laughter copy combo in your Reanimator deck, then it would matter, but I don't think you can do that. So yeah. I am, though, concerned that the reanimation style of this is pretty good. For example, how Olivia Voldaren, the Crimson Bride, comes out, discard half your cards, and it's already attacking. Now, it wouldn't get the mill trigger, but I actually think that's good, because if the opponent uses their graveyard in some way, you don't want to give them that mill trigger. And now you're going to say, oh, but CGB, have you read Olivia? If Olivia dies and gets hit with a removal spell, you have to exile Lord Xander. Oh, but wait, Lord Xander has a little more trick up sleeve. This is a vampire demon noble, and Olivia says as long as you control a legendary vampire, you don't exile that creature you reanimated. So Lord Xander would stay. So that's kind of like, that's a lot of good. That's a lot of good.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. So you're like playing a 6 mana card into a reanimated 7 mana card. What are our good reanimating spells in standard or in alchemy? I'm not even really like, I don't track that.
Great questions. The best one in standard is going to be really hard to cast with this, and it's going to cause you to go like full reanimator where you don't even plan to cast your big drops, and that's Invoke Justice. Invoke Justice is 1 white, 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 white. It returns a permanent from the graveyard to the battlefield, and you put 4 +1/+1 counters on creatures you control. That's much better with haste cards than it is with this. Like, that's much better with Velomachus. With Vorinclex, that swings for 14 trample, which is pretty funny. Haste. But so that, I don't know if this makes it with Invoke Justice. The other reanimation spells in standard, Olivia Crimson Bride and Return Upon the Tides, which is foretell, and then you can cast it for 4. So I have seen some Return Upon the Tides decks, so maybe we'll see that in standard. Alchemy is where it gets saucy. Alchemy is where you have the recent, not the most recent, but the second to most recent buff to a card called Assemble from Parts. And Assemble from Parts is like, I'm so bad at this, but it's like 1 black mana to give a card in your graveyard the ability to reanimate itself for a black and 2 generic, I think. And so there's a way that you can do it to have like a turn 3 reanimation pulled off without ramping. But you have to get this in your graveyard, target it with the Assemble from Parts, and then assemble it.
Okay.
So I'm not even sure I have everything about that card correctly, but, you know, Bottle Rush will put the card over here and maybe it'll have the adjustments from Alchemy made to it. Maybe not, because Gatherer is like that, But that is where it gets, that is where you might have some things happen to you that you do not expect, is in Alchemy.
Yeah. Well, I also saw someone talking about, you know, the 3-mana Sorin Planeswalker that lets you put a vampire into play.
That's historic. Okay. Yeah.
So if you're playing historic and you have some kind of Grixis vampire deck, that could be a turn 3 KO right there. So especially like, let's say you're playing a control deck, right? And you're like, and someone sneaks a Sorin in by you, like that's pretty much game over if you get this thing down on the battlefield. I think if this resolves against, you know, like a number of the control shells that you currently see in historic, it's not going to be fun for them.
Wow. Yeah. This is almost an ultimatum too in Commander with sneak attack. You know what I mean? Because it would sacrifice on end step after gaining haste. Like, it's a cool card, man. This card's a playa. I think it's a fun card. I think that a lot of people will get trapped by it. I think you'll probably see at least one kind of fun Reanimator and or cheaty the card into play kind of a deck. I don't expect it to stick around, but you know what's interesting, CGB? I feel like Wizards has actually done a good job lately of printing cards like this, where we think, it's probably not going to get there. And then like they somehow make the format in a way in which the card's actually a real player. I'm just thinking about like, maybe like Halana and Elena is not such a good example, but that's a card which I kind of wrote off and it ended up being like one of the better cards that was printed in that set. But yeah, I feel like cards like this have been getting there more often lately than I feel like they did in the past. Yeah, I can agree with that. Formats have been pretty interesting as bans come in and 7-mana cards get playable again.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely want to keep an eye on. Let us now move on to the charmed part of the podcast, the part of the podcast that Arjuna didn't get. They have given us the charms for these 3 families as well. So these are basically all modal instants. They cost 1 mana of each of the colors in the family, and they all have 3 effects. So let's kick things off with the Nylon Cabarete Charm. This is an instant at uncommon. Choose 1, and it costs green, white, red. Choose 1. Cabarete Charm deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker, or creatures you control get +1/+1 and can trample until end of turn, or create 2 1/1 green and white citizen creature tokens. So this card is designed to play very well with Jetmir Nexus of Revels. It kind of fills in whichever part of the equation you're missing. So looks like it's going to definitely at least be a consideration in any kind of Naya go wide deck. That's definitely the level 1 take on this card. Do you see any other possibilities with it, CGB?
Honestly, no. I think that's exactly what it's here to do. And I think that it's going to be kind of a trend on these charms. So this might be a little cold water for the charm cycle, but I don't think any of these are nearly like designed to be on their own. You must play this powerful level like the charms of the past. I haven't seen anything like an Esper charm, you know, or something or a Naya charm like back in the day. These are cards that are very specifically tailored to address what that family wants to do so that they synergize with the rest of the deck, but they don't make the deck. All of these I would describe as like, you probably want 2, you know, because if your hand is all Cabarete Charm, you're doing underrate stuff. You're paying 3 mana for 2 1/1s. Then you're paying 3 mana to deal some damage and get a Kabira takedown like effect. And then you're paying 3 mana to get a mini overrun. Like none of this is good. So you can't draw too many of it. You want just a little dash of it in exactly the right place. And that's going to apply to all these charms as we go through them.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Do you think that that's like a good design choice? Or are you a little disappointed that we're probably not going to see these charms showing up much in Historic, or maybe we're not going to be prioritizing them that much in Brawl, that kind of thing?
I'm with the latter. I like my charms to be very like strong effects that fit into the color combination so that I can run them across multiple deck types and formats. Whereas these charms are designed very clearly to fit like a deck type. Like you are doing the Jetmir thing. You need creatures. You are wide board. This is wide board charm. And we'll get into, what the Esper and Grixis charms do. And that can be really good because it helps you enable deck types right now. But like there are some commanders I would run this with in Historic Brawl, like Minsk. But there's also a lot of cases where this is just a very okay card and not a great card. And I like powerful cards.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's somewhat of a missed opportunity. I think, a lot of the previous charms, like you were saying, have definitely found homes over time in Magic and have really proven themselves to, perform. And who knows, maybe one or more of these charms will end up being better than they look. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I haven't seen anything yet that made me like sit up in my chair and go, ooh, we have a new classic on our hands here.
Yeah, no Boros Charm or Azorius Charm, although that's a little unfair because they're two colors. But
indeed,
I'll read Maestro's Charm. Like I feel like I threw some cold water on these, but they're still cool cards, and you're going to probably see them many times, and they're uncommons, so they're not hard to get. So that's nice. Yeah,
that's cool.
All right, Maestro's Charm is the Grixis one, and it's an instant. They are all instants. They all cost whatever the guild family color is, and the options are. 1, look at the top 5 cards of your library, put one of those cards into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Second option, each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. Third option, charm deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. So removal, card selection / graveyard filling. It's almost like they intend for you to reanimate Xander, huh?
Good point.
And burn. Lose 3 life, gain 3 life. I didn't see the burn angle coming.
Yeah, the burn one was a little interesting to me. Makes me wonder if there's going to be more burn support or whatnot going on there.
No, the juicy thing there, if you're like used to playing Grixis, is the life gain side. Like this is a lightning helix without white. That's kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, but it's only opponent, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah. The 3 life, though, you just don't gain life when you play Grixis. Like this is something Grixis mages know. You like when our life when we pay life for cards with a card like Greed or Necropotence, it ain't coming back. We're taking this down to this. It's a one-way elevator. Okay. So
yeah. So I agree. This is a very medium power level card. I mean, could be standard playable. It could even not, to be honest. It might just not be quite good enough. But it could get there.
I was pretty surprised by the 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. I thought you just get destroy target creature
just
or
kill
planeswalker.
Him, right? Yeah. I that made me raise my eyebrows as well. I was a little disappointed with that.
I'm trying to think of what it doesn't kill, though. It's kind of hard to get a 6 toughness in standard right now, right?
Doesn't kill coma. Woot. All right. Getting back to real life. Well, it's going to be really annoying when your opponent cheats Lord Xander into play and you can't kill it with your Maestro's Charm. So,
oops.
It's a thing. I did it again. I'd say here's the thing. Like, you think these 5 damage effects are going to kill everything, and then all of a sudden your opponent has like a 6/6 Luminarch Aspirant on turn 4 or something. And they play Halana and Elena, and all of a sudden all my creatures are like 10/10s or whatever. So it could come up, right?
You play some weird games of Magic, but okay, I feel you.
It happens. It's going to matter more than you think, Crafties. That's the main point. Well, your opponent plays Oko and you can't even kill it with the damn thing.
Oh God, you're right.
Oh my gosh. All right. Let's talk about Obscura Charm. This is the Esper version. So its modes are: choose one, return target multicolored permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Mode 2, counter target instant or sorcery spell. Mode 3, destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana value 3 or less. This one's weird, dude. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like you play this card for very specific reasons, in my opinion.
Destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana value 3 or less. I can see where it hits a lot of creatures, but not at a rate that you want to do, because you don't want to pay 3 mana to trade down. Although you'll do it when you have to, but you don't want to. And then destroy target planeswalker 3 or less. What do we got? Chandra?
Yeah, we still have
Kaido,
Kaldheim one,
Kaido,
right?
Shizuki, and Chandra. I guess it's still weird.
Yeah, and what's the Azorius one?
Nico
exists. No one plays Nico, but that's another one.
I have a Nico deck. Maybe I'll reveal it to the world soon. Anyway, counter target instant or sorcery is super narrow, which makes holding this up very awkward, because they might kind of like Quandrix Command. I'm sure as a Simic mage, you've played this. It seems like it should hit a lot of things, but man, do you feel it when they resolve something and you look at your Quandrix Command like, doesn't counter that. And I definitely don't want to bounce it.
Yeah.
That's how I think Obscura Charm is going to be a lot of those feels. So then on the backside of that, you're like, okay, we have this narrow counter ability and this narrow removal ability. If I hold up my 3 mana to play this instant speed charm, hopefully I get an Archmage's Charm-like ability where maybe I could get to draw 2 cards and discard 1 or something like that. Some kind of a draw effect, so I'm not punished for holding this open. But the last ability is return target multicolored permanent card with mana value 3 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. There's a lot of little restriction in there that make it suck. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Tapped? Why tapped? Why tapped?
Well, and it's just so, I feel like they went out of their way to make sure this card wasn't going to be that good, right? Because, like, for example, would it have killed them to make it just counter a spell? Like,
right. Make it the cancel of the set. The harder to cancel of the set. Yeah. Like
white, blue, black counter a spell, that's already pretty restrictive, right? And, this card is like, even if you have the mana up, it's still arguably just worse than like a Drown in the Lock or something. So yeah, I'm a little surprised. I feel like they went overboard on this card with toning it down, but who knows? Again, maybe I'm missing something. I mean, playing out your Kaito and getting to use it a few turns and then your opponent kills it and then you get it back. Like, it's not the worst thing.
It also gets back Rafine.
Yeah, so that's true.
Yeah, and I am afraid Rafine might be pretty good, to be honest. So we'll see. Yeah. But yeah, it does feel like there's a lot of kind of bizarre restrictions on the card. Return target multicolored permanent with mana value 3 or less. Can you think of something besides Rafine? Multicolored permanent. You said Kaido. Kaido's all right. But it's kind of hard, right? It's like, that really does like scale back what you can do with it pretty hard. One thing I thought of is Silverquill Silencer, and there's a pretty cool deck I played this last season called The Silencer, which was all about recasting and playing Silverquill Silencer with cards like Restoration of Aganjo, so it was always on the battlefield. And this does that. But yeah, it feels like they nerfed this card pretty hard. Yeah.
So they did print an Ascendancy in this set already with the Broker's Ascendancy. I wonder if they have like an Ascendancy for each, color combo. Maybe you could bring one of those back. Maybe that would be relevant somehow.
We'll see if they're good Ascendancies, man. The Broker's Ascendancy didn't get me excited. So we're going to have to see if they print an Ascendancy that is, super gasoline,
Right. Or like, maybe even a good Ascendancy that somehow makes its way into the graveyard regularly, and then you get it back with the charm and that feels cool or whatever. But I wish this one had been a little more powerful.
So do you have a favorite card from the 6 new ones that we've seen?
I think that you're right in that Rafine seems to be like the highest upside one, or the one that has the most potential to get there.
Yeah.
Honestly, here's the thing. I'm just not much of a Naya or a Grixis gamer. So it's been a little bit hard for me to get excited about any of these.
Oh, yeah. You need something that puts blue and green together. Are you waiting for Bant?
Oh, definitely.
Okay,
yeah. When the Bant one hits, we will see whether Arjuna flips the table or not.
All right.
Yeah. But yeah, I would probably go with the card that I think you are most interested in, which is Rafine. I also think this card could really do something.
Oh, cool. There's some new cards and some more look at the flavor and the lords and the logos of the houses. And, we're starting to rev up. This coming week is going to be like kind of the big launch type show that they do now, where they bring in they bring some people in and do some high produced, like, this is the world we're going through. And they try to introduce all the flavors. So we'll have more to talk about next week.
So this is what I'm wondering, like, judging from the power level of these cards, I'm not seeing anything that has really knocked my socks off yet. And so I'm wondering, like, clearly this is a set where they have an opportunity to print powerful 3-color cards. I'm kind of wondering, like, in what vein they're going to be, right? So if it's not going to be like the heads of the leads of the family, if it's not going to be the ascendancies, if it's not going to be the charms, I'm just kind of wondering what it is going to be.
Oh, it's going to be some kind of ultimatum, right? Because, I mean, isn't that just the family? Isn't that, I don't know, gangsta stuff, but doesn't it feel like you should be able to cast a 7-mana ultimatum and say, hey, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Yeah.
I mean, I'm so with you, dude. If that's what they end up doing, I mean, you know me. Who's more of an ultimatum gamer than the Arjuna
dude,
man?
Every single ultimatum is going to have a mode that says take an extra turn after this one.
Oh my gosh.
Easy.
Dude.
Powerful, right? Fun. Magic. Fun
magic returns, dude. So, I mean, yeah. I want them to print another Grixis ultimatum because I want to be able to, like, galvanic iteration an ultimatum in this format. If I can do that, that's going to be a good time. But so that's my only hope. I just feel like this is going to be a powerful set, and I'm just wondering where the power is going to end up being. So if I love formats where ultimatums are playable. That was one of the things I loved most about, like, when Ikaria was in Standard, was that we had multiple ultimatums that actually ended up being in, like, tier 1 or tier 2 decks. And I think that whenever that's possible to do in a format, I think it's really cool. Personally, it just means that, like, I mean, it plays to the things that I like in Magic, which is ramping, going big, and actually having the time to do that, or actually not having enough cards in the format to consistently punish you for having a top end like that. So maybe it's just because that's the way that I like to play Magic. But I do think that, like, any format in which you get to just, like, hard cast expensive, flashy spells and have them be cool, personally, I think that is a cool format. So I'm looking forward to that, hoping that will be the case.
Yeah, you're the type who enjoyed all the emergent ultimatum nonsense.
I did indeed. So I recently revisited Emergent Ultimatum in Historic just to get some of those good old feels going on. And it turns out that that's still a pretty fun archetype to play, and it can still do pretty powerful things. But so the big question with Emergent Ultimatum has always been, how do I guarantee a win, right? How do I have it be, if I resolve this spell, I win the game 100% of the time, always? And that continues to be a really fun puzzle to try to solve. The Vorinclex Liliana combination, I think it's Liliana, Waker of the, Queen of the, I don't remember what
Professor Onyx, dude.
No, it's not Professor Onyx. We have a better one.
What?
We have a better one. The War of the Spark Liliana. What was she called?
Dreadhorde General?
Dreadhorde General. So So what you're trying to do is you're trying to force your opponent to let you have Vorinclex and Liliana Dreadhorde General, because her ultimate is your opponent chooses one permanent of each type and sacks the rest, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So that's what you're trying to do. So the split that I've been doing is Vorinclex, Dreadhorde General, and Omniscience. And people do not want to give you Omniscience, right? So that's the idea.
Your idea of fun is very specific.
I want to squeeze my opponent. Dude, I'm basically a crime boss over here. But
Nice.
you know what's funny is that even though the split in Historic is a lot more ball breaking than it was in Standard, like people still get out of it, dude. I've had multiple people just like shrug off the Liliana ultimate and then just win anyway. I was playing against a Bard class deck, and they're like, cool, I'll keep one land, I'll keep a Bard class, and I'll keep whatever cool legendary creature I had out, and just proceed to combo off and kill me on the next turn. So yeah, it turns out that Historic Best of One can actually be a pretty fun format sometimes.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. I didn't think I'd hear that this week. All right.
Yeah, I know,
Cool.
right? These are some of the ways that I'm preserving my sanity playing Arena these days.
Yeah, I also played some Historic Best of One this week. I played an event, one of those 7-win events with Tainted Pact combo, because I still had it saved from a year ago when Thassa's Oracle wasn't banned.
Dude, you are the ultimate crime boss over here. I got nothing on your level of evil, CGB.
My opponents loved it. They loved, because here's the thing. Everything about that deck is still very legal except for the Oracle, and it's the win con. And it's like the last card you see. Yeah. So they're hanging out just being like, they're not going to be able to win. I don't know why they're doing this. And then you play the card that's been banned for a year and they're like, nice.
I was wondering how many nices you got.
And you know what? It's the ultimate get out of the matchmaker like thing, because they're not going to pair you against the same deck because nobody else can play it.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Yep. It's great,
man. Neat little dodge there.
Yeah, you just have to sign up for the event and then wait almost a whole freaking year before you play it. Patience is a win con, dude.
It's the ultimate long con, dude. Well, I think we answered the question of who is the more evil co-host on the show. Some are willing to play the villain.
But what else is evil? According to everybody? Alchemy. Alchemy is evil. Do we want to hit these rebalancings that happened?
Yeah, let's take it really quickly.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm just going to cover what I think are the notables.
Okay.
Like I don't want to read all these because there's a bunch of cards in here I've never even heard of that are getting rebalanced. And in Venture, like we have the example from Venture, right? When they rebalanced Venture, the cards that were pretty damn good got better. And it's like those ended up being the cards that got played, not the cards that were terrible and became passable. You know what I mean? Those cards didn't get played. So this round, going live on April 7th, Thursday, if you're listening to this in week 1, is going to buff Warriors and Elves. Are you hyped? Are either of those your jam?
No. No, dude. I'm not one of these people who, I call him Tyvar Keck W for a reason. I'm definitely not one of these people who tried to go hard on week 1. So not a believer. But yeah, if there's one thing that the Venture buff taught me, it was not to underestimate these cards for sure.
All right. So there's a lot of buffs on this. I'm just going to cover the things that I think are cool. So Bruner Battlehammer, mostly I'm covering him because I like his character in the books, but he was a 5/3. He's become a 5/4, and his second ability of attach an equipment you control to target creature you control, activate as a sorcery. It's been adjusted. So now it works with reconfigure. So you can make reconfigure creatures attach for reconfigure for free. So that's kind of cool that you get to do that.
Let's see. So reconfigure creatures were already equipments. So what this basically means is it makes the unattached free. Is that right?
No. So it's not an equip ability. It's a reconfigure ability. And what this used to do is it made the reconfigure. Okay. It made the equip cost 0, but that didn't work with reconfigure because reconfigure is not equip.
So, but aren't those still equipments though?
They are.
Okay.
So that's why they changed it. It says attached target equipment. It used to say like the equip cost is 0 or something like that.
Oh, okay. This is the new wording that we're reading. Got it.
Yes,
okay.
yes. It's okay. Reading this article is freaking terrible if you don't also have a Scryfall page open to look up the cards, because they didn't put images of the cards or even a clickable link to the cards as they exist. They just didn't do it.
So frustrating.
And most of these cards, like I said, you never even heard of. Like I had to look up all of these: Armory Veteran, Arms Scavenger, Dwarfold Champion, Expedition Supplier, Goma Fata Vanguard. It's stupid. It's stupid, Arjuna. It's stupid.
It is indeed.
All right. So they adjusted the Lord for warriors. Kargan War Leader is now Kargan Ward Leader. It gains Ward 1 and it gives all warriors Ward 1 as well as a +1/+1 bonus. Yeah. So Kargan Ward Leader is not bad. Like giving warriors a little ward and having ward itself means that your 3-mana Lord might not immediately die like it always would otherwise. So that's okay. Also, ward on a thing that has an equipment is good.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Here's, in my opinion, the big one. If you are a warrior gamer who wants to equip stuff, Nahiri, Heir of the Ancients. I forgot this card existed.
It was the Zendikar Rising Planeswalker.
Yeah, I think I've played this card a grand total of 0 times. And
dude, you know how you knew this card was bad? It wasn't even that good in Limited. I remember like you'd first pick this card and you'd build around it and you'd get what you thought was a pretty good deck. The Planeswalker would come down and it just didn't even win you the game. It was kind of embarrassing.
What if I told you that the -2 now gets a warrior and an equipment instead of just a warrior or an equipment?
Whoa, you get 2 cards?
Yeah, -2 for 2 cards off your Planeswalker.
I mean, that's definitely interesting. You have my attention.
The -3 now counts warriors and equipment. So the -3 is Nahiri deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to twice the number of warriors and equipment you control. So if you have a warrior and an equipment, the -3 deals 4 damage to a creature or planeswalker. That's Chandra Torch of Defiance territory.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, we're definitely in for that -2, right? I mean,
that -2 is hot.
It is the top 6. So that's something we need to remember. You're going to whiff fairly often, unless your deck's like half equipment, which is definitely not likely to happen.
Well, hold on. So like I'm remembering the type line of Reality Chip, which is legendary equipment creature jellyfish, right?
Yes.
So if you have, are there any of these equipments that are also warriors?
That's a good
So you
question.
can pick either side of the equation.
Oh wait, the ogre helm might be a warrior.
I think it is a warrior.
Yeah.
Bottle Brush is looking these up for us. Ogre Head Helm, I think, is a warrior. Yeah.
Let me look this one up.
The rabbit's not a warrior. That'd be too cool.
It's an equipment ogre. Damn it.
What? Okay.
That's a missed opportunity for sure.
Bummer. Anyway, I was looking for a way to, in Arjuna terms, butter both sides of the bread.
Exactly.
That's what I wanted.
So it's, the -2 looks good, but when you add that top 6 clause, I'm not sure that it increases the hit rate that much.
So, me, I have 4 copies of frickin' Eliwick Tumblestrum.
You do.
I looked up right away to see how many Nahiris I had to see if I should play them when this alchemy thing goes live. I have 1 copy of Nahiri, and this is really funny. It's the one that came with the pre-order bundle.
You didn't even open it.
I didn't open or craft a single Nahiri from Zendikar Rising.
That's hilarious.
I have all these terrible cards. I have 4 copies of like all these legendary dragons that nobody plays.
Yeah. No, I have 4 copies of this Nahiri because I was like 15th picking them in draft. It's embarrassing.
It's not that embarrassing. Okay, the card might be, but yeah, so I don't know if I'm going to get to play him. Can I borrow your Nahiris to try him out on day one for the content?
I wish that were a thing.
Is that not a thing? You can't borrow cards to try them out to see if you like them.
We're still waiting for that in the next economy stream.
Technology? They don't have the technology?
No, they just don't. They can't figure it out.
Okay.
I don't know what to tell you, dude. It's mythic. It's 4 times as difficult.
Okay. So are you ready to... So I'm not going to be jamming the Warriors. Are you ready to talk about the Elves?
Yes.
All right. So Tyvar Kek W has a starting loyalty now that's 4 instead of 3. And the +1 puts 2 counters on an elf instead of 1.
Okay. That's a significant buff.
The ultimate is now a -7 instead of a -6.
Okay.
The loyalty uptick is important. It was a very weak planeswalker, but 2 counters is a lot of counters on an elf. So
yeah,
it's a kind of a gamer there. Like your 1/1 elf token becomes a 3/3. That's
yeah. It like makes your silly discard elf become like potentially a reasonable card and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I do remember like people could definitely go off with these elves decks back in the Kaldheim standard when it first hit. So definitely not like a completely woefully inadequate archetype. It seemed like an archetype that maybe just needed like one more really good card, or exactly needed a couple of its cards to just be that much better to put it on the map. So it actually wouldn't surprise me at all if a few more buffs to this archetype made it a player, or at least like a tier 2 or 3 deck. It also makes me wonder what other elves we've had added in the meantime that no one's been paying attention to.
So let me see if any of these buffs do it then for you.
Okay.
But I'm gonna turn these, what are these crazy cards, into a quiz for you. So do you know what Skemfar Avenger does?
Wasn't that the 3/1 that drew you a card if another elf died?
Yeah, elf or berserker dies, draw a card, lose 1 life, and it was non-token. So they cut the non-tokenness.
Oh, okay. That is actually a pretty substantial buff, I would say.
Yeah, whenever another elf or berserker dies, you draw a card and lose a life. That's not bad.
No.
All right, Canopy Tactician. You know what that does?
Canopy Tactician, people called it, because it taps things.
No.
But I don't remember other than that.
Okay, it's a 3/3 elf that would tap for 3 green mana, and it also buffed all other elves. They made it a 3/4 instead of a 3/3.
Yeah, that's a reasonable buff.
It's a 4 mana 3/4 though.
Yeah,
it's like Anyway,
wait, it costs 4 mana.
Yeah, it costs 4 mana, dude.
Oh, okay.
I'm off 3 and a green. Yeah, off it. All right, but here's an interesting one. I was talking about this with the Reanimator talk earlier. Return Upon the Tide. Do you know what that does?
Return Upon the Tide. Was that like the 7 or 9 mana mythic?
You're thinking of Haunting Voyage. Voyage.
Okay. Return Upon the Tide was the Reanimator spell?
It's a reanimation spell that you can foretell. So it's 5 mana normally, like 4 and a black. But if you foretell it, it's 3 and a black. It returns target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. If that creature is an elf, you created 2 1/1 elf tokens. Now you create 3 1/1 elf tokens.
I mean, that's a good magic card if you get those.
We need some thick elves to reanimate, though. Is there like some 7/9 elf lord? Like just something huge? We need a Toxrill that's also an elf.
Okay. I mean, reread the type line. You never know.
Yeah. We need to poke around and see what's up with elves.
Elf.
All right. I'm going to mention this one only because you mentioned it like when you saw this article in the pre-show. Elven Bow. Elven Bow. You may now pay 1 instead of 2 to create the 1/1 elf warrior creature token. So basically it's 1 green for the artifact, then only 1 more to create the 1/1 token and attach this to it. So it's like 2 mana for a 2/3 reach elf where a part of the stat line is an equipment.
Yeah, which I mean, that is a significant upgrade. That turns it from being not remotely playable to being like a card I would Probably still not play, but at least take a look at.
Right. Fun. All right.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get out of the elves. There's a whole bunch more. And
Whoa.
I don't.
There are a lot of cards in this announcement.
Yeah.
Dang.
Too many to read. But those are the ones that I think are most likely to actually move a needle in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
So for individual cards, they just picked out 3 cards and we're like, we're going to give those some buffs just because. Symmetry Sage. Do you know what that does?
No idea.
Okay, it's 1 blue for an 0/2. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery as Magecraft, like that, another creature gains base power 2 until end of turn, and it has flying.
Yeah. I remember that card.
All right. Well, now it's an 0/3 for 1 blue. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, target creature gains base power 3 until end of turn.
Okay.
So you play this on 1, and then you play like a Consider on turn 2, and you're attacking with a 3/3 flyer for a turn.
Yeah. It could definitely go into your Delver deck, right?
Right. It is like a Delver 2.0, I suppose. All right.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to play it, but it's a buff for sure.
Spell Satchel got a buff. It now costs 2 mana to activate and only costs 2 counters instead of costing 3 mana to activate and requiring 3 counters. Did you ever play with Spell Satchel? Book counters?
No.
Okay. I played a few decks with this and it was better than I thought it would be, but it's still not that good of a card, I don't think. And also the thing with Spell Satchel, you never drew cards with it, like ever. You were always using it as a ramp spell. So
yeah, that's what I remember about it.
This doesn't change hardly anything.
Oh, baby. But now we come to the only part of this announcement that makes me sit up in my chair at all.
Okay. we woke up Arjuna. You want to read it then? Dude,
they made good. They finally did the responsible thing. They finally made base camp into the battlefield untapped. Hallelujah. So, okay. This is exactly what Alchemy was supposed to do, right? Alchemy was supposed to be the format where we take cards that everyone has wanted to play forever and actually make them playable. So, yeah. So base camp, if people forgot, is basically just the land that taps for generic mana, but it taps for a mana of any color to cast a party creature. And boy, did this card hold party archetypes back when it was first printed. Because I do actually think, as we saw in Standard 2022, the Bant party deck ended up being one of the strongest decks in that format, kind of out of nowhere. And it didn't even have access to like this good land, basically, because it always came in taps. So I don't know if party can, still party after all this time. But this is definitely going to be a huge buff to any party deck for sure.
Party didn't have Divine Purge to worry about.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. When you say that this is exactly what Alchemy is meant to do, my first instinct is like, oh yeah, when 6 months after a deck has ceased to be relevant, we're supposed to just give people a little dab of hope. And then they can go back in and get their old cards out, maybe craft some cards and then get those hopes crushed. Yep, exactly.
I mean, you're right. If this could have happened like a month into the format. So yeah, I feel like a month into the format is like, they could take a card like Base Camp and be like, oh, okay, no one's playing party. Let's buff this and let's see if the archetype actually gets there. And I think so yeah, I mean, I agree. It's way too late, but like, this is the kind of buff that I feel like I would like to see in the Alchemy format.
Yeah. I think that the Base Camp buff is being universally heralded as a good thing. I just think it's kind of funny that it took this long. But who knows? Maybe it will just provide a little bit of help to the decks that need it and actually see some play, much like Dungeon Descent. Yeah,
maybe, over the summer, we'll have one last party before all of those college students pack it on in there.
Yeah, that's going to be the name of the video. One last party.
One last party. The summer-long party. All right, CGB. Well, we came, we discussed, we memed, we taunted, we trolled. And I think that's going to wrap up this edition of the ArenaCraft podcast. So thank you for sticking with us for another week. I don't know what CGB, like, what's the part of everything we talked about today that was like the most exciting or the most interesting to you?
Pro Tour, baby. I'm going to be going to Pro Tours, even if I'm not playing in them. I'm gonna soak up the vibe. I'm gonna get out of this dusty old house, and I'm gonna absorb some high level competitive Magic and kind of live out that teenager CGB dream of just being around the scene. And hopefully, I'll have something cool to do when I'm doing it. I'm not sure, but I'll definitely find a way to keep the people informed on what I'm up to.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing you in the coverage somewhere. You know what I want to see? Like, you know, when there's like the cameras like on the table and there's these two players and they're really focused and someone's tanking or whatever. And then it pans over and you see like all the people standing behind the barrier. And like, I just want to look over and see CGB like at the front, like with his banner, just like, woo.
Sure, I'll do that. Whatever it takes, man. I'll be in the audience like I was. If you ever go back and watch like the War of the Spark trailer reaction at PAX East, I was in the audience. Like, yeah, that's fine. Let's go.
Hell yeah. All right. You can find the ArenaCraft podcast on Spotify or anywhere that you can download podcasts. You can also watch it on CovertGoBlue's YouTube channel. You can also watch CovertGoBlue streaming on Twitch and sometimes reliving the old Pro Tour glory days on Twitch. You can find Arjuna streaming not that often on Twitch these days as well at twitch.tv/ArenaCraft podcast. Wanted to give a shout out to our patrons. You keep us in the game. You keep the smile on our faces. We're super happy that you donate to the show. And, for anyone who listens to the show regularly, who has not yet contributed to the Patreon, please consider it. You can get in for basically the price of a cup of coffee. It's very easy. Excuse me. And it keeps everyone happy. So thanks so much for doing that. And CGB, I will look forward to catching you next week. And in the meantime, you're cool.
Aw. Later, crafties.